Initiation into Hermetics by Franz Barden. Exteriorization. The magician has learned in this course how to sever his mental and his astral body from the physical body, and the problem therefore does not represent anything new to him. What he ignores is the fact that he does not have to separate the whole mental or astral body while performing this experiment, but that he can exteriorize or disconnect single parts of the body. The mental and the astral body not being confined to time or space, the magician will be able to transfer different parts of his body, even to the furthest distance, as soon as he separates these parts in the akasha with the help of the imagination. For example, he will be able to transfer one or both of his eyes anywhere else, in order to get impressions there in exactly the same way as if he were there physically, without wasting force in transferring his whole mental or astral body. He can do the same with his mental or physical ears in order to hear things at unlimited distances. At first, he will perform it through imagination with his spiritual body only, and later with his astral and his mental body. In this manner, he will be capable to see and to hear anywhere at the same time by means of his transferred eyes and ears, without being in a state of trance or in the primary world. As soon as he possesses a certain skill in the eye-ear practice, he can try the same experiment with his hands and gradually with his feet as well. He will do so mentally at first too, after that in connection with his astral hands, and condensing the latter with the help of the earth element, he can materialize them physically. It is obvious that he will be able to make himself conspicuous by these materialized hands at any distance, causing knocking sounds and other noises. After many exercises, he can move objects too. Naturally, a lot of spooks could be performed in this manner, but a true magician will not waste his precious time with such childish tricks. Imagination by thinking of the hand. Is that? Have I just turned 2 pages? I think I did. Or did I? Such child, I forgot to do the faculty of writing at distance between living persons may be interpreted in this manner too. Supposing a skilled magician has exteriorized his mental and his astral hand with the help of imagination, by thinking of the hand as being somewhere else, with a piece of paper and a pencil are prepared, his mental and his astral hand can seize the partner's hand at the greatest distance and give normal messages. It is even possible to transfer the magician's correct handwriting by this experiment at an unlimited distance. This particular feat is called by adepts writing at distance between living persons. If the magician has gained a certain mastery in exteriorizing his hands and feet, objects can be transferred in the same way at the greatest distance too. I am going to describe in a further chapter how to make an object invisible. The magician will notice that he can neither hear nor see with his physical eyes, nor will he perceive anything at all that happens while exteriorizing, that's hard to say, while exteriorizing his eyes or ears outside his body, even if he kept his eyes open. As to the exteriorization of other limbs, the respective limbs, say the hand, will remain lifeless, cataleptic, until the mental or astral limb has been reconnected with the body. Magic of becoming invisible. In many fairy tales, the story goes that a sorcerer has made himself invisible, and that there is a peculiar ring which makes people invisible if they twist it round their finger. Many books describe talismans and gems granting the bearer the gift of invisibility, and give instructions in this line too. But nothing of the kind is reliable nor of any use for real practice. On the other hand, based on the universal laws and on what we have learned up to now, we shall try to prove that, from the magic point of view, making invisible is a matter of fact. To start with, we have to distinguish between a mental or spiritual, an astral or psychical, and a physical invisibility. Making the mental body, that means the spirit invisible, has no particular value, but it is nevertheless possible that situations will occur in life where this practice could be useful. Suppose the magician wants to transfer himself mentally or psychically somewhere, and he does not wish to be perceived by beings of some kind or by the skilled senses of anybody else. He can utilize the mental invisibility. Take example by a guru who wants to visit his scholar mentally in order to check him. Thus made invisible, the master will be quite near to the scholar without being noticed by the scholar, even if he had already fully developed his senses. Furthermore, a magician could attend to the evil works of the so-called black magicians in order to learn everything about their doings, or, if necessary, to perform a certain influence without being noticed by these black magicians and their beings. There may be other more conditions in life where it will be advisable to resort to making invisible oneself mentally or astrally. Becoming mentally invisible is very simple, and it is accomplished by filling the mental body with akasha from head to toe. The mental body will instantly vanish out of any being's sight, since akasha is without any color and without any vibration. If the spirit of a magician should perform any act on one of the mental planes, this would be registered in the akasha principle. And in spite of being invisible, he could be found out in consequence of his activity by means of clairvoyance. To prevent this, the magician has to wrap his whole body with a black cover, as soon as he has filled his mental body with akasha. It does not matter whether this cover has the shape of a ball or of an egg. He must not forget to seclude himself from all, underneath his feet as well as above his head, completely with akasha. Before going somewhere else in this condition of being invisible, he ought to concentrate on the fact that his activity should be neutralized by the akasha. That means it should be written into the akasha, i.e., leave no traces at all. This concentration is necessary, for otherwise the magician must fear that, though rather illegible, several new causes might be registered in the akasha. The magician is fully responsible for every action he is, though invisible, carrying out in the mental world. Fate is no longer able to do him any harm, because he has become the master of Akasha, master of his fate. Henceforward, he is merely subject to the divine providence. Should he misuse his knowledge for evil deeds, it would be the divine providence that would punish him instead of fate. The divine providence would give him, so to speak, the cold shoulder, and he would have to live on as a lonely individual forsaken in the universe. The only possibility of relying on the divine providence would be lost forever, which, to be sure of it, would be worse than any curse. Such a magician would be doomed to destruction, and he can easily realize what that would mean from the magical point of view. Provided one is proficient enough in making and becoming invisible in mental wandering, the same procedure can be also used in sending out the astral body. Here as well, the practice of loading the whole personality with Akasha is very much in line with the loading of the mental and the astral body together. The other measures are the same as previously described. From the magic standpoint, it is also possible to make invisible on the material plane, but here invisibility is not produced by Akasha, but by means of light. Filling the physical body with light, it must be in harmony with the intensity of the light prevailing at that moment. If the accumulation of light was stronger than necessary, one would not become invisible but transparent and bright, similar to the sun, shining white without and within. Physical invisibility is very difficult to be produced. It requires years of training and practice, and hardly anybody but adepts of higher, if not the highest ranks, can execute such an operation correctly. Supposing this great skill of making invisible his mental and his astral body, eventually his physical body too, the magician did I read that correctly? Supposing this great skill of making invisible his mental and his astral body, eventually his physical body too, the magician is in a position to bring about the disappearance of any material object. Another way to do this is the transmutation of an object from the solid into the astral form by means of imagination in connection with Akasha. The object vanishes instantly from the sight of any person whose magic senses have not sufficiently been developed. An object transformed in the astral form can be transferred by the astral body of an entity or of the magician himself to a distance. The magician or the entity performing this transference at last has the task of retransferring the object from the astral condition into its physical form. This kind of object transference is often practiced by creatures of spiritualistic mediums, provided the point is a phenomenon based on an unmistakable materialization, although such things are extremely rare. But whatever planetary and extra-planetary intelligences may be able to perform, all this can also be done by the magician who is acquainted with the universal laws and has made good progress in his development. There is still one method of making invisible, the deviation of the senses, which is practiced in all kinds of hypnosis and in that form of suggestion in which entities produce a number of vibrations corresponding to that of the light in the physical body, thus affecting invisibility. Some more instructions referring to this problem will be found in my book, Practice of Magical Evocation. Barden's Initiation into Hermetics, also known as IIH.